rolling. Yeah,
Let's go back to butt metal. I think
Oh.
what one of Matt and I's like very first like text exchanges was about butt metal.
I didn't even realize until this last year that it was called butt metal. Like, I thought that that was kind of some post, like, derogatory view on it. But at the time, if you wanted to get into it, you were like a butt metal enthusiast. Is that
Still
accurate?
sounds so derogatory.
I mean, I guess it's not far off from the aesthetic of it. Oh boy.
Hmm.
Welcome to Academically Distanced, a series of discussions with people from all across FSU on their experiences in academia during the time of COVID. I'm Tom Cruise, Digital Media Manager at FSU Libraries, and in this episode I'm joined by...
Lisa Play, library instruction specialist.
Could you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Oh, that's a basic question that I always have a hard time like elegantly articulating an answer to. I help our reference and instruction librarian, Liz Dunn. Currently, our biggest class is the ENC 2135 introductory level exploration of how a database works, what we have access to through the libraries. And during normal circumstances, you get to see so many different students and you get to see the types of research that they're doing. And
You were directly involved with, face-to-face instruction. How did things start to, I guess, either muddy or coalesce once we started transitioning to operating remotely?
so when this all started going crazy, Liz and I, and our brilliant team, had just wrapped the spring face-to-face courses and the online courses. Those instruction sessions were out of the way. They were finished. So we didn't have the immediate crisis of trying to switch things over. So moving things online, we are in the process already of building an ENC online module. So that in a way that had been planned for some time, we've been talking about it since last year, just to meet the need more effectively. This didn't change everything that we were doing. A lot of our operational day-to-day work is done in the cloud. We do have a lot of meetings that we have face-to-face, but now we have them over Zoom.
It sounds like, across the libraries at the very least, a lot of us were working on ways that we could, continue offerings online, even for what we were doing with our, media production within the libraries. We were looking for ways to offer content, say via live stream, having that kind of like synchronous form of engagement. And, when it comes to Lindsay Wharton with Office of Distance Learning, her entire job revolves around finding ways to offer an equitable academic experience for those who might not be on campus. It just seems like with the advent of COVID-19 and having to figure out where our job's going to look like now that we're at home, we're not having that face-to-face time. Luckily, we had some of these projects that were on the periphery. Now they're our main gig.
It made me feel very fortunate in just those early weeks when we were just trying to figure out what we needed to prioritize, what needed to be shuffled back down to the bottom of the pile to meet the new needs that we had. So kind of going back to that question I never answered about what my day looks like, there's certainly like the routine that was built into kind of meeting people where they were physically doesn't really exist anymore because we don't have to make time for that. It's just a Zoom call away. So like after lunch, I would want to go take a walk and get out of the library, especially if I had classes, just to kind of decompress a little bit, because I'm sure there are plenty of instructors out there who can relate to this. Like you're on. It's a very emotionally energizing experience, especially when you want to make the same information seem new and exciting time after time. Keeping that work-life balance like hermetically sealed is very challenging when your work computer is in your house.
Yeah, and luckily that's been an ongoing conversation, not just between us, but with higher level meetings. It's a constant discussion, especially when this all first started and we were moving our office spaces home, is let's not all like tether ourselves and have to feel like we're on all the time. We can recognize that we're home. I mean, I know that you worked out of our Strozier library, which is a ways across campus from where I worked, over at Direct
Oh,
Science
yes,
Library.
yes.
That's where, if I'm correct, you were doing your face-to-face instruction for some of those courses. So you did have a very dynamic schedule. You were literally up and moving and walking around. And I guess how does that look now?
I miss getting my steps in. It's much harder. There's a built-in level of physical activity. As someone who has trouble staying still for a long time and who likes, even though I don't interact, like I'm not like a social butterfly, but someone who enjoys just the little experiential connective moments of my day when you go upstairs to go get some hot water for your cup of tea, or just kind of walk around in a section that has like Renaissance Italy, books on Renaissance Italy, just to kill 15 minutes to kind of clear your head between projects, like being around people. It's a tough thing not to have and not to be able to walk around campus. And there's like that sense of community, that whole kind of little pebble in the stream kind of feeling of being on a campus with like 35,000 people on it. It's nice. It's nice to be in that kind of active place, especially this time of year where it's hot, but it's not disgusting yet. This is a good time to be on campus. Also, it's empty because it's summer when we're recording this.
Yeah, it's about 55 degrees this morning on this day of, is it May 7th? Is that what the month is?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is time?
Just not getting to enjoy the library in that private way. To me, walking through the library and walking through the upper floors feels like, if you've ever been in like a large train station, like in New York City or another urban area, and gotten a coffee and just kind of watch people walk by. To me, it's like that, but with more books and much quieter. But to me, that's like what I relate that feeling to. It's kind of not the same. I have my plants outside and we hang out, but it's not the same as sitting under those trees outside the library and eating a donut or something.
Yeah. So, some of those like quieter moments that you would have, you happen to mention your plants, so this would kind of be a good segue. What do you find yourself kind of filling that time with? Or like, what have you started doing since?
Well, I'm currently getting my library science degree, halfway plus done as of the end of the spring semester. The most stressful semester I've ever had, ever, my whole life. Lots of video chatting. I find that I'm doing a lot of all the science projects like that you did like when you were in third grade, like, oh, I got a bunch of lemon seeds from a lemon. Let's put them in a plastic bag and put them on top of the refrigerator with like a wet paper towel and see if they grow. Or making quarantine bread. I made some pretty stinker loaves the last time or two I tried to do it. But today I finally have a successful loaf. It only took like 2 or 3 tries.
Beautiful bike. A great British baking show. Beautiful bike. How long did you proof this?
Beautiful. I think it might have been slightly underproofed. I think it could have risen a bit more, to be honest. Like having an in-depth project of any kind during this, I think is a sustaining element for a lot of people. Now I have a lot of leftovers. I'm trying to like repurpose and elevate to the point where I can keep on eating them through the rest of time, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big trend in finding ways to get as much mileage as possible out of what we've got, including, food or like upcycling opportunities.
I've always been a big fan of growing things I can eat. I think I'm just a very food-centered, food-motivated individual. I don't really have any plants that I can't consume in one form or another. I have always had tomato plants. I have one heirloom variety, some cilantro, lots of herbs, rosemary, red vein sorrel. What else is back there? Lots of kale. Lots of herb plants just kind of growing in like a plastic egg crate bottom. Yeah, there's a lot of upcycling for me as well. And it's partially just because you don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to go out. People do need to go to hardware stores for all sorts of for valid reasons for maintaining their home. going to the garden store for like one thing is just so frivolous right now. So just upcycling that is your option.
My partner's a whiz when it comes to exploring opportunities for subsistence living. She already had a backyard garden in the works, before, this was all a thing with COVID-19. Upcycling's been a huge part of it. Right now she's turned a discarded tire into a planter. There's some purple basil in there right now. And just the other day, it's funny the kinds of things, like seeing the world through her eyes especially, what you can become excited about. Peering into some of the bushes, I saw a pallet. She was thrilled. Immediately after the walk, we, stow the dog in the house, grab a car, and go pick up this like random discarded pallet. And within the space of a day, she has turned it into a raised garden bed and has already
That's
planted
awesome.
like a bunch of edible plants in there. It's great because I can just claim credit of this like very subsistence level lifestyle, but I mean, all I did was carry it.
You helped. That's
Yeah,
labor.
I helped. Now I've come to appreciate, like, this was always something that was very pragmatic, and now more than ever, it's definitely the
Yeah.
case.
And yeah, just upcycling. Like I found pieces of like a fence just kind of in the grass behind my apartment. I was like, well, I guess this is mine. I kind of leaned it against the wall and put a pot that I have a cucumber plant in right next to it to encourage it to go up. Wait this for a second.
Oh, is this a landscaping, folks? This makes it all the more authentic. Life is happening all around us.
Life is happening. Having the shift into like COVID, like panic was just overwhelming at points. And even though everything we did and do can be done online, or many things that we do, like being able to shift those things in a meaningful way, not just plopping it on like a Zoom call, but actually creating those opportunities for students it was like overwhelming for a while, but I'm glad that we were able to do it. How do we go back to normal? What does normal look like for us? Part of the larger whole experience, campus experience, is the core of university for a lot of people. It's how you make connections, different people who you might not otherwise interact with. I think there are a lot of very vital advantages to online work. As someone who's taught online and someone who's been a student online, the online like education landscape is, fraught with peril, but it can be a really smooth, accessible experience in so many ways. So what I would hope is, in situations where it's beneficial, seeing things be hybridized towards having things that are more online, especially for programs that are like master's programs that are meant for people who are currently working. I think moving towards that would be a new normal I would like to explore and see how that works. I find that like the amount of freedom that you get with online courses to make the chaotic schedules that we live in now for people who have children or older family members or are essential workers. I think moving towards that on the whole is not a bad idea, but I do feel like the in-classroom experience is just so important to so many people for different reasons. And I don't think that will ever go away, and I hope it doesn't. I hope it stays.
Yeah, and it's just as you've described, is that physical presence it's what makes it experiential. It is what allows for those organic interactions that would otherwise not happen. Like, I don't know how many people currently, in courses have an opportunity to all of a sudden make a friend or meet a colleague outside of someone who also happens to be in a Zoom meeting, and maybe they ask an interesting question. Finding any sort of solace and grounding in the real world and not being entirely like consumed by a screen in front of you it's essential where you can find it.
I took a few days off after the term ended. This is the first like library related thing I'm doing off of my vacation, so I'm in a pretty calm between semesters state of mind right now, but over the last several days, I just got to get outside and, sit in the shade and drink some horchata and read a magazine and just kind of stare up at the sky and, not really think about doing very much. Anything like that really helped. I think one day in particular, early on in this, when the stress was really high, I was sweeping my back porch because I had been moving a lot of stuff around and repotting things and dirt was everywhere. And so I had some buckets of water that I just, splashed on the porch and kind of pushed that dirt away. It was like way more effort than absolutely necessary. But like I got that porch really clean, and like it started raining as I was getting it done, and like just that act of like really cleaning that porch and having like a very visible, tangible task that I completed just for me, because unfortunately none of my dear friends and coworkers will be able to see it in person anytime soon, to make it nice looking. One of the first steps of making it like the little garden paradise it is today kind of came out of that very distracted, like anxious, and ultimately kind of cathartic task of really just kind of sweeping all the dirt out, bucket after bucket of water, of just getting that off of the porch. And I think it might need it again, but like not quite as intense as it needed it before. I hope that if this lasts, we have to be all apart from each other, for a lot longer. I'll have like extra tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff that I'll be able to share with people I care about, and that'll be nice. Drop it off on their front door, knock them, go away. It's like a little something that you can give to somebody else. I find that the thing that's the most challenging about this experience, it's just an overwhelming scale in our country alone, where things are so very, very challenging, and communication could be clearer or exist at all. Decisions could be maybe more rational. Just being able to offer help in your own way, and just being able to have that bit of agency to, make a loaf of bread for someone, or to take a couple minutes for yourself and not be worried about, if you go to the grocery store, if you're going to get sick, worrying if you have your mask on right. Check the CDC. If you have any questions, make sure you check a trusted source. But just being able to take time for yourself to clear your mind, I feel like helps a lot, even when it feels impossible to get out of your space for a couple of minutes. I think key for a lot of people. It's something that I know has worked for me very well.
I think that's good actionable advice, is taking agency where you can, thinking locally, even if, the space of local happens to be your porch.
It's very hard to articulate sometimes, like trying to think of the next 6 weeks and the next 6 months, what this looks like for all of us. How do we go back to the way we were? And there are questions like that I hear, and I like, we'll get there, but let's get like to somewhere first. We're not close to after yet. Yeah. Some places in the world like South Korea and Taiwan is actually doing very well also. But like South Korea they're able to look on the other side of like a lockdown. But it's hard to think of what after might even mean.
It's a struggle, but as someone who has also at least started 30 days of yoga with Adrian, we are not being paid for these plugs. One thing that she mentions from an angle of mindfulness is working on being present, not trying to obsess too much about what's uncertain, because it's just that, and it might be out of your agency. But
for me, like trying to think of like just getting to the end of the semester, that was my goal for a long time, and then I did it, and everything worked out great. But like just trying to think into the near future of how you can meet your needs, and how you can meet the needs of the people who need you is good. Like, you have your whole life to get these productivity things down, I think.
Well, I have taken quite a bit of your time, and I do really appreciate you offering that and sitting down and talking to me for a while. If folks wanted to get in touch with you, are there any ways that you'd like to provide that?
Sure. You can reach out to me at lplay, L-P-L-A-Y, at fsu.edu. That would be it. But thank you so much. It was really great to be able to explore these conversations and think about what's out there.